Hello everyone, it's me again. Today I will recap the movie Civil War. A fierce battle is taking place right in the capital of the United States. The separatist army is simultaneously attacking to destroy the president. Combat helicopters are flying in the sky, tanks and armored vehicles are also pouring into the city, surrounding the entire area around the White House. The remaining guards are weakly fighting back, trying to protect the president. In that chaotic scene, there are war reporters, who are not afraid of danger, risking their lives to take pictures for documentation. Why did the U.S. Army attack the White House, and even want to destroy the president? To answer this question, everyone should go back to the previous period. The film begins with the confrontation between the alliance of separatist states of Texas, California, and the government army. The three-term president of the country ordered airstrikes on civilians, disbanded the FBI, and virtually suspended the Constitution. This caused a wave of anger among the people. This is Lee Smith, a veteran war correspondent. While covering an anti-government protest, she saw a little girl taking pictures and being hit in the face by a policeman. Lee Smith quickly approached her and asked about her health. The girl's name was Jessie, and she was passionate about photography. Lee Smith gave her his uniform shirt, saying that if she didn't want to be beaten up, she should wear this. As soon as she finished speaking, an extremist carrying a bomb rushed into the crowd, and the bomb exploded. Luckily, Lee pulled Jessie down in time, avoiding the impact of the explosion. Lee Smith quickly picked up his camera and took pictures of this desolate scene. After that incident, Lee returned to the hotel with his colleagues. This man's name was Sammy. He said that the army of the separatists was approaching Washington, gradually cutting off all support from the presidential administration, predicting that as soon as Washington fell, they would launch a general attack. This guy's name was Joel. He was Lee's closest colleague. He said that tomorrow the two of them would go to Washington together. They wanted to take pictures and interview the president. If Washington fell and the government collapsed, this interview would definitely go down in history. Hearing this, Sammy immediately objected because he thought that this was too dangerous, no different from rushing to death. Reporters were not allowed to get close to the Capitol, otherwise the guards would open fire. Their men would be riddled with holes, like showerheads, before they could meet the president. In addition, the main roads were blocked. The only way to get to the Capitol was to go around west of Aurelia, and that would definitely be an extremely dangerous journey in this chaotic situation. Lee and Joel tried to convince Sammy to go with them, because he was the most experienced person in the group. However, no matter how much they begged, Sammy still hesitated. He said that he did not want to participate in this suicide mission, but his passion for being a reporter was still strong, and if possible, he would go with Lee and Joel to the front lines. When Lee was about to go to the break room, he met Jessie there. She came to thank Lee and wanted to return the shirt to Lee, but Lee told her to keep it, and told her to remember to bring a helmet and armor next time before working in such violent places. Jessie confided that she was a photographer, and her biggest dream was to become a talented war correspondent like Lee. Although Lee appeared tough and strong on the outside, she was very tense on the inside. Throughout her career, she had experienced and witnessed countless tragic events. These things had a big impact on her psychology. The next morning, Lee went down to the lobby to prepare to leave, and saw Jessie sitting in the car. It turned out that yesterday Jessie had come to see Joel and Sammy, convincing them to go on this trip together. Although Lee was not happy about this, because she did not want to drag a teenager into danger. However, she knew that even if she wanted to stop Jessie, she would not be able to, so Lee had to accept. The four of them got in the car and started the trip to Washington, D.C. The highway was deserted, not a single person in sight, cars lying around, just like the scene in a post-apocalyptic movie. Sammy told Joel that, when interviewed, they should ask the president why he decided to disband the FBI and, more importantly, why he ordered airstrikes on civilians. Joel just smiled and replied that, by then, he was afraid he would be so nervous that he would forget all of this. When they reached the military checkpoint, because they had press cards, the group easily passed through. When they entered the city, they stopped to fill up their gas tank to continue their journey. But outside they saw three young men with guns standing guard. After a while of bargaining, Lee was able to negotiate a tank of gas for $300. In these times, even money was not enough to buy necessities. Jessie seemed to have seen something outside, so she got out of the car to investigate. A gunman saw this and followed her. Jessie saw two men tied up in a warehouse. The gunman told Jessie that the other two wanted to rob the gas station, so this was the consequence they had to suffer. Lee also stepped forward, did not intervene, but only asked to take some photos for documentation. When she returned to the car, Jessie was very upset when she witnessed what had just happened. She blamed Lee for not stopping the torture of the two men. Lee calmly analyzed that the job of a reporter is to always stand in the middle, not interfere in anything, not judge right or wrong, only record how others do it. Lee said that if Jesse was passionate and really wanted to pursue this career, it would be best to get used to it gradually, because what she was about to see would be many times worse. Continuing the journey, Lee took Jesse to take photos of a downed combat helicopter. The two seemed to be getting closer to each other. Lee said that this profession of war correspondent was really dangerous. She herself had experienced it, so she understood very well. Rushing into this profession was a big mistake, but the choice was Jess's. She was very passionate and wanted to become a war photographer. That night, when stopping to rest, Lee and Sammy sat and talked to each other. He said that Jessie looked very much like Lee when she was young, an enthusiastic young girl who lived his life with passion without fear of danger. Lee thought she was being harsh on Jessie, but Sammy thought she was being harsh on herself. They sat watching the flares and streaks of fire shooting up, lighting up the sky, thinking about where the future of this country would go. The next morning, they witnessed a gun battle between the separatist army and the soldiers of the U.S. government. The group wore journalist uniforms, fully equipped with helmets, standing behind to work. Jessie, although it was her first time witnessing this scene, was very calm. She was no longer afraid, trying to take as many photos as possible. This group of separatists then attacked the inside of the building and discovered an injured American soldier. They did not hesitate to kill him, then captured 3 others alive. Jessie recorded the image of the 3 American soldiers being executed, which exposed the cruel nature of war. There was nothing called mercy or humanity here. After that, they continued their journey to the capital. After moving for a while, they stopped at a large stadium, which seemed to be set up as a refugee camp for people affected by the war. Jessie also showed Lee the photos she took. After seeing them, Lee realized that this girl had a lot of potential. Not only that, the situation was very similar to her own before. Lee could see his younger self inside Jessie. Here, the group had a few moments of relaxation after the stressful journey just now. Continuing the journey, the group arrived to the city, which was really peaceful, as if nothing had happened. Completely opposite to the chaos outside. They went into a clothing store to ask around. The owner said that the people here were completely neutral. They had nothing to do with the civil war that was happening. Lee also took the opportunity to try on a pretty dress. Jessie took the opportunity to take a photo of this rare moment. Perhaps this was the first time Lee smiled so brightly since the beginning of the journey. Then, they got back in the car and headed towards the capital. On the radio, the president was still speaking, calling on the separatists to surrender unconditionally for leniency. Suddenly, another car appeared behind them, speeding like crazy, wanting to chase them. The group was tense, not knowing what was about to happen. When the other car passed, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be Tony, a Chinese colleague of theirs. With long hair, this Tony was really daring to jump from his car to Lee's group's car while driving at high speed. Jessie was also excited when she saw that. Wanting to experience the thrill, she boldly climbed into the other car. Before they could go far, Lee started to get nervous when she lost track of Jessie. Lee got angry and argued with Tony. While losing focus, she almost crashing into the car going in the opposite direction. Annoyed, she quickly stepped on the gas and sped off to find Jessie. They saw Jessie's car parked on the side of the road, but couldn't find her. The group crept closer to observe, and were startled to discover that Jessie and the driver were being controlled by a group of armed soldiers. Next to them was a truck full of civilian corpses. It seems they want to cover this up. Knowing that Jessie was in danger, Joel suggested that they go there to negotiate. After all, they were reporters, and the law stated that they were not allowed to harm reporters. However, Sammy said that it was too dangerous. These people had massacred innocent civilians, which meant that they did not want anyone to find out about this. Going up there now is no different than going to death. But there was no other way, so Lee, Joel and Tony went to talk to the soldiers. Joel tried to explain that he was a reporter, and Jessie and the driver were his colleagues. But the leader of the soldiers did not care. He opened fire on the driver. Then he questioned them about their American background. He asked everyone from Joel, Lee to Jessie where they were from. When they answered that they were American, it was fine. Then it was the turn of the long-haired Tony. When he had just said that he was from Hong Kong, he was shot and killed by this leader. While everyone was extremely frightened, Sammy drove from afar and crashed straight into the soldiers, then hurriedly called everyone to get in the car and run away. Jessie fell into the pit, where the bodies were buried. This made her face pale with fear, her limbs weak. Joel had to quickly pull Jessie up. A soldier also fired at them at this time, but luckily the whole group managed to escape. When they came to their senses, everyone was pale with fear. Jessie was so scared by the scene just now that she vomited all over the car. But now there was a more serious problem. While coming to the rescue, Sammy was shot in the chest. Everyone tried to help him to the back seat, and then hurriedly drove to find the nearest medical station. The group helplessly watched their friend facing death. In the morning, they arrived at a separatist military base, but because of the severe injuries, Sammy could not survive. This made everyone in the group extremely sad. No one had the mind to think about anything else. Here, they met two other colleagues who were also working. These people said that the president's army had surrendered. The only defense force in Washington now was only a few loyal soldiers and a few agents. So the separatist army would launch a general attack tonight, determined to destroy the old regime. Joel said that they had to go to record this battle, otherwise Sammy's death would be meaningless. That night, the separatist forces stormed the White House as planned. Lee's group was also ready to follow. As the battle began, Jessie kept taking pictures, trying not to miss a single moment. Lee seemed mentally unstable. She was absent-mindedly wandering under the rumbling rain of bombs and bullets. Combat helicopters flew in the sky, continuously bombing the White House, but it seemed that the presidential army's defense line was still quite strong. At this time, a tank from the separatists arrived, fired directly at the gate of the White House, and then went straight inside. Lee still had not regained her composure. It seemed that witnessing this fierce battlefield scene was now too much for her. Suddenly, from inside the White House, the presidential motorcade recklessly rushed straight outside. The separatists' armored vehicles immediately blocked it, determined not to let the president escape. With her experience, Lee realized that this was just a trap. The president was definitely not in those cars. So she led Jessie and Joel straight into the White House. As expected, the people in the other car were just replacements. They had just stepped out when they were shot and killed by the separatists. When Lee's group entered the White House, it was empty inside. Not a single person was seen. The separatists also appeared soon after. They searched everywhere, at all costs to find the president. At this time, a woman appeared, saying that she wanted to negotiate the president's surrender, asking for protection to neutral territory. However, the separatists did not agree, opened fire and killed the subject, then continued to search the entire White House. They encountered resistance from the president's remaining bodyguards. Jessie was so busy working that she did not pay attention to the situation around her. She was still absorbed in taking pictures. At the end of the hallway, closer than ever to the president, Jessie wanted to take a photo of a lifetime, so she boldly rushed out into the middle of the road. Realizing the danger, Lee didn't think much and rushed to push Jessie down. As a result, she became a shield for Jessie. When Jessie realized it, it was too late. Lee was dead. At this time, in front of the assassins, Jessie was stunned. Joel also came forward to encourage her, reminding her to continue working. Finally, they captured the president. When Joel asked if the president had anything to say, the president just begged that please don't kill him. Jessie also managed to capture the moment when the separatist army sent the incumbent president to the afterlife. The movie ends here. Thank you very much for your support so that the channel can develop as it is today. If you find it interesting, please give me a like and a comment about this movie. Especially, please subscribe to the channel to follow my movie recap. See you again, my dear friends.